In life, we all encounter difficult people, those who push our buttons, challenge our patience, or disrupt our peace. Whether it's a critical family member, a frustrating coworker, or a friend who thrives on drama, these interactions can be emotionally draining. This audiobook isn't about changing difficult people, it's about changing how you respond to them. It's about learning to maintain your peace, set boundaries, and manage conflict with grace. You'll gain practical tools to handle challenging personalities, stop reacting emotionally, and start responding with strength and wisdom. Through real-life examples and proven strategies, you'll discover how to stay grounded, no matter what. This is about thriving, not just surviving. It's time to take control of your emotional freedom and stop letting difficult people dictate your happiness. Let's get started. Difficult people are all around us, but understanding why they behave the way they do is the first step in learning how to deal with them effectively. Many people who exhibit difficult behaviors, whether they are rude, critical, or confrontational, often aren't inherently bad people. Rather, their behaviors are a manifestation of deeper-rooted issues, many of which are invisible to the casual observer. At the heart of most difficult behavior is insecurity. People who feel threatened, inadequate, or anxious about their own self-worth often act out in ways that push others away. They may feel like they need to dominate a conversation, criticize others, or exert control to mask their own feelings of inadequacy. For them, difficult behavior becomes a shield, a way of projecting strength when they actually feel vulnerable. Similarly, fear is a powerful motivator of difficult behavior. People may be afraid of losing control, afraid of change, or afraid of being seen as weak. To protect themselves, they adopt a defensive stance in conversations, relationships, or work environments. This fear often causes them to lash out or create conflict as a way to avoid feeling exposed. In many cases, emotional pain plays a role. People who have experienced trauma, betrayal, or rejection often carry those wounds with them, whether consciously or subconsciously. Over time, that emotional pain can fester and shape how they interact with others. Someone who has been hurt by others might become overly suspicious, cynical, or aggressive in an attempt to prevent being hurt again. While their actions might seem unreasonable or even hostile, understanding that these behaviors are often a defense mechanism allows you to approach the situation with more empathy and clarity. Finally, it's important to recognize that some people are just not self-aware. They might not realize how their behavior affects others, or even that they are being difficult. They may have spent years operating in certain patterns of behavior without anyone addressing it, which means they've never had to confront their negative traits. Without self-awareness, they may be oblivious to the fact that they're causing frustration or conflict. For these individuals, difficult behavior may not be intentional, but simply a product of their lack of insight. When you look at difficult behavior through these lenses, it becomes clear that difficult people are often struggling with something beneath the surface. While it doesn't excuse their behavior, it does offer a way to approach these situations from a place of understanding rather than immediate frustration or anger. Interactions with difficult people can leave you emotionally exhausted, mentally drained, and even physically stressed. Whether it's a confrontational coworker, an overbearing family member, or a manipulative friend, these encounters often take a toll on your well-being. They can cloud your judgment, make you second-guess your actions, and create a negative environment in both your personal and professional life. Difficult people have a way of getting under your skin and consuming your thoughts. You might find yourself replaying interactions in your head, thinking about what you should have said, or dreading the next encounter. This mental energy could be better spent on more productive or fulfilling endeavors, but instead, it becomes fixated on handling or avoiding difficult people. This not only impacts your mood and motivation, but also steals your focus from more important tasks. Over time, the cumulative effect of dealing with difficult people can affect your relationships. The stress and frustration from these interactions might spill over into your personal life, causing you to take out your feelings on loved ones or withdraw from social activities. You might start avoiding certain people or situations altogether to prevent conflict, which can limit your experiences and isolate you from others. Recognizing how much these interactions affect your life is essential. It's not just about the momentary irritation, it's about how that irritation lingers and disrupts your emotional balance. The energy you lose in trying to navigate difficult people can leave you feeling worn down, distracted, and even anxious about future encounters. Addressing difficult people in your life is not only a strategy for better interactions, it's crucial for your overall well-being. The longer you let these people have power over your emotions, the more control you give away. Whether it's a toxic relationship that needs boundaries or a work environment that requires better communication, taking steps to manage your interactions with difficult people can dramatically improve your mental health, productivity, and overall happiness. Learning how to manage your reactions to difficult people is one of the most powerful tools you can develop. It's natural to want to react immediately, especially when someone's behavior is frustrating or offensive. However, reacting emotionally in the heat of the moment often escalates the situation and leaves you feeling even more frustrated. The first step in managing your reactions is learning how to pause. When faced with a difficult person, take a moment before responding. This pause allows you to assess the situation more objectively, giving you a chance to breathe and regain control of your emotions. Instead of reacting with anger or irritation, you can choose a more measured response that keeps the situation from spiraling out of control. Staying calm in the face of difficult behavior is crucial, but it requires emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, while also being able to navigate the emotions of others. When dealing with difficult people, emotional intelligence allows you to see beyond the behavior and into the root causes of why someone might be acting that way. It helps you avoid taking things personally, even when someone's behavior feels like a personal attack. One technique to stay calm is to practice detachment. Detachment doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means learning how to separate your emotional reaction from the other person's behavior. By detaching, you maintain your peace and composure without letting their negativity affect you. Another effective approach is to shift your focus from the immediate issue to the bigger picture. Ask yourself, is this worth my emotional energy? Often, the answer is no. Many conflicts with difficult people are temporary or trivial in the grand scheme of things. By reminding yourself of your larger goals and values, you can avoid getting dragged into petty disputes. Ultimately, mastering your emotional reactions to difficult people empowers you. It prevents you from becoming a victim of their behavior and keeps you in control of how you experience the situation. Through practice and patience, you can learn to face difficult people without losing your cool, ensuring that you stay calm, focused, and in control no matter what they throw your way. One of the most important tools for managing difficult people is learning how to set healthy boundaries. Without clear boundaries, difficult people can easily take advantage of your time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. Boundaries protect you from being overwhelmed and help you maintain control over your interactions. However, setting boundaries can be challenging, especially if you're used to accommodating others or if the difficult person is someone close to you. The first step in setting healthy boundaries is recognizing that it's not only okay to say no, but it's essential for your well-being. Difficult people often push limits and ignore social cues, so you need to be firm about what you will and will not tolerate. This doesn't mean being rude or confrontational. It simply means being clear and assertive about your needs. For example, if someone constantly interrupts your work, you might say, "I'm focusing on this project right now. Let's discuss this later when I can give you my full attention." This is a respectful way to protect your time while also showing consideration for the other person. When setting boundaries, clarity is key. Be specific about what behavior is unacceptable and what the consequences will be if that behavior continues. For instance, if a friend frequently makes hurtful comments, you might say, "I value our friendship, but the comments you've been making are hurtful. If they continue, I'll have to distance myself for my own peace of mind." This approach is clear, firm, and communicates that while you respect the relationship, you also prioritize your emotional well-being. It's also important to maintain your boundaries consistently. Once you've established a boundary, don't backtrack or make exceptions, especially with difficult people who may try to test or push past them. When you stand by your boundaries, you reinforce the message that your time, energy, and emotional space are valuable. However, maintaining boundaries doesn't mean escalating conflict. It's about calmly and assertively reinforcing your position, even if the other person tries to argue or manipulate the situation. Finally, setting boundaries is about self-care. It's not selfish or unkind to protect your peace. In fact, by establishing boundaries, you're ensuring that your interactions with difficult people remain as positive and respectful as possible. Boundaries aren't about controlling others. They're about controlling how much access they have to your emotional energy. Difficult people come in many forms, and understanding the specific type of difficult personality you're dealing with can help you tailor your approach. While each individual is unique, there are some common patterns of behavior that can be identified and addressed more effectively once you recognize them. The complainer. This person constantly focuses on problems, whether big or small. They never seem to be satisfied and often play the victim. When dealing with a complainer, it's important not to get sucked into their negativity. Acknowledge their feelings without feeding into their complaints. For example, say, "I understand this situation is frustrating for you. What can we do to solve it?" This response validates their feelings while also shifting the conversation towards finding a solution. The bully. Bullies are often aggressive, domineering, and use intimidation to get their way. They thrive on making others feel small or insecure. When dealing with a bully, it's important to remain calm and assertive. Don't allow their behavior to provoke you into an emotional reaction. Instead, stand your ground and firmly communicate your boundaries. For example, say, "I'm not comfortable with the way you're speaking to me. Let's have this conversation respectfully, or I'll need to step away." The narcissist. Narcissists are highly self-centered and often lack empathy. They believe the world revolves around them and expect others to cater to their needs. When dealing with a narcissist, it's crucial not to fall into the trap of trying to please them or gain their approval. Maintain clear boundaries and focus on your own needs rather than constantly accommodating theirs. Avoid trying to challenge their inflated sense of self. Narcissists rarely respond well to criticism and will often deflect blame. The manipulator. Manipulators use guilt, flattery, or deceit to get what they want. They often disguise their true intentions behind a facade of concern or friendship. Recognizing manipulation requires paying attention to patterns of behavior, how the person's actions consistently serve their interests at your expense. When dealing with a manipulator, maintain emotional distance and don't allow yourself to be swayed by their tactics. Politely but firmly decline their attempts to manipulate you, saying something like, "I understand what you're asking, but I'm not comfortable with that. Each type of difficult person requires a different strategy, but the common thread is recognizing their behavior for what it is and not allowing it to dictate your emotional responses. When you can identify the type of difficult personality you're dealing with, you can approach the situation more strategically, maintaining control over the interaction. Active listening is one of the most powerful tools you can use when dealing with difficult people. Often, difficult behavior stems from a feeling of not being heard or understood. By actively listening to what they're saying, you can sometimes diffuse tension and open up a more productive conversation. Active listening doesn't mean agreeing with the difficult person, but it does mean giving them your full attention and acknowledging their perspective. When someone feels heard, they are often less likely to escalate their behavior. For example, if someone is complaining or venting, you can say, "I can see that this situation is really upsetting for you." This simple acknowledgement helps the other person feel validated, which can reduce their need to keep pushing their point. Empathy is key here, but it's important to balance empathy with maintaining your own boundaries. You can show empathy without agreeing to unreasonable demands. For instance, a colleague might be upset about a project and push for more support. You can empathize with their frustration by saying, "I understand this project is stressful for you. Let's figure out what resources we have available to help," without necessarily giving them everything they ask for. Another important aspect of active listening is using reflective responses. This involves repeating or summarizing what the other person has said to show that you've understood them. For example, you might say, "So what I'm hearing is that you're upset about the way this meeting was handled and you'd like things to be more organized next time." This technique not only shows that you're listening, but also helps clarify the issue at hand, making it easier to address. Finally, active listening can help de-escalate conflict. When a difficult person feels heard, they are less likely to continue pushing the issue aggressively. By focusing on understanding rather than reacting, you can often turn a tense interaction into a more constructive conversation. Active listening doesn't mean you have to solve the other person's problems, but it does create a space where both sides can communicate more effectively. Effective communication is essential when dealing with difficult people, but it's not just about getting your point across. It's about doing so in a way that maintains respect and clarity without escalating tension. When you communicate with clarity and confidence, you create boundaries that protect your emotional well-being and foster healthier interactions, even with those who challenge your patience. Assertive communication is the key to managing these situations effectively. Being assertive means expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs openly and honestly, without being aggressive or overly passive. It's about standing up for yourself while still respecting the other person. For example, if a colleague consistently interrupts you during meetings, an assertive response might be, "I'd like to finish my point before moving on to yours. I'll let you know when I'm done." This response is direct, clear, and respectful, asserting your need to be heard without causing unnecessary conflict. One of the main challenges people face when communicating with difficult individuals is the fear of being perceived as confrontational. However, being assertive is not the same as being aggressive. Aggression often involves anger, forcefulness, or a desire to dominate the conversation, while assertiveness is rooted in self-respect and mutual respect. An aggressive response to being interrupted, for example, might be snapping, "You always interrupt me. Let me talk for once." This only fuels the conflict, whereas assertiveness aims to diffuse it. To communicate assertively, use I statements instead of you statements. This shifts the focus from blaming the other person to expressing how their actions affect you. For instance, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted during conversations." This subtle shift can prevent the other person from becoming defensive and keeps the conversation focused on resolution. Another tool to enhance your communication is to maintain a calm tone and body language. Difficult people often provoke emotional reactions, but staying calm helps you maintain control of the situation. If you find yourself getting upset, take a deep breath and consciously relax your body before responding. This not only helps you stay focused, but also signals to the other person that you are composed and won't be easily rattled. Communicating with clarity and confidence is about asserting your needs, not dominating the conversation. It's about finding common ground where possible and maintaining your dignity where it isn't. By practicing assertive communication, you can turn potentially volatile interactions into opportunities for mutual understanding and respect. One of the most common pitfalls when dealing with difficult people is the urge to win. This desire to be right or to have the last word can often escalate conflicts rather than resolve them. But real power in dealing with difficult personalities comes from letting go of the need to win. In many situations, trying to win only fuels the conflict, and the person you're engaging with is likely to dig in their heels even more. Detachment is a powerful tool in these emotionally charged situations. It means emotionally separating yourself from the outcome of the conflict and focusing on preserving your own peace. When you're not emotionally invested in being right or getting the last word, you'll find it easier to maintain your composure and perspective. For instance, if someone tries to provoke you with rude comments or criticism, instead of feeling the need to retaliate, you can choose to detach from their behavior. By doing so, you shift the focus from confrontation to resolution. This doesn't mean you should ignore the situation or allow disrespectful behavior to continue unchecked. Instead, detachment allows you to approach the issue without being emotionally triggered. You can calmly address the behavior by saying something like, "I can see that we disagree, but I'd rather not continue the conversation if it's going to cause tension." This acknowledges the conflict, but refuses to feed into it. Letting go of the need to win also involves recognizing when the conversation is no longer productive. Difficult people often thrive on drama and conflict, and engaging with them beyond a certain point can be fruitless. Knowing when to step back and disengage is a sign of emotional intelligence and strength. It's not about losing, but about choosing peace over conflict. You don't need to have the last word to feel secure in your position. Focusing on resolution instead of victory allows you to approach conflicts with a collaborative mindset rather than a combative one. Ask yourself, what outcome do I truly want from this situation? If the answer is to resolve the conflict and move forward, then winning becomes less important. The goal shifts from proving the other person wrong to finding a way to coexist peacefully, or at the very least, maintaining your own sense of inner peace. By letting go of the need to win, you free yourself from the emotional burden of always having to be right. This allows you to conserve your energy and focus on the things that truly matter, both in your relationships and in your personal life. Passive-aggressive behavior can be one of the most frustrating forms of difficult behavior to deal with because it's often indirect and subtle. Unlike overt aggression, passive-aggressive behavior involves indirect resistance, stubbornness, or a disguised hostility that can be difficult to confront head-on. Recognizing and addressing this behavior effectively requires a blend of awareness, emotional intelligence, and strategy. The first step in responding to passive-aggressive behavior is learning to recognize its signs. Common examples include backhanded compliments, procrastination, silent treatment, or making sarcastic comments disguised as humor. For instance, someone might say, "Oh, you're so brave to wear that," when they're really criticizing your clothing choice. These subtle digs can be easy to overlook, but over time, they can wear you down emotionally. Once you recognize passive-aggressive behavior, the key is not to get drawn into the game. Passive-aggressive people often rely on your emotional reaction to gain control of the situation. If you respond with anger or frustration, you give them the upper hand. Instead, stay calm and address the behavior directly, but without hostility. For example, if someone frequently makes sarcastic comments about your work, you might respond by saying, "I noticed you've made a few comments about my work recently. If there's something you'd like to discuss, I'd prefer we talk about it directly." This response brings the issue into the open and forces the other person to confront their behavior without giving them the emotional reaction they may be seeking. Another way to handle passive-aggressive behavior is by using humor to diffuse the situation. If someone makes a sarcastic or backhanded comment, responding with light-hearted humor can sometimes disarm the tension. For instance, if a coworker says, "Oh, you're finally here," when you arrive a few minutes late, you could respond with a smile and say, "Better late than never, right?" Humor shows that you're not easily rattled and can help prevent the situation from escalating. When addressing passive-aggressive behavior, it's also important to avoid mirroring it. If someone gives you the silent treatment, resist the temptation to give it back. Responding in kind only prolongs the toxic pattern and makes it harder to resolve the issue. Instead, maintain your own standard of communication and continue being direct and respectful. This not only demonstrates maturity, but also helps shift the dynamic of the relationship. Finally, when dealing with persistent passive-aggressive behavior, set boundaries. If someone consistently engages in these patterns, it's important to communicate that their behavior is unacceptable. For example, you might say, "I'd appreciate it if we could speak more openly rather than through sarcasm." Setting boundaries shows the other person that you won't tolerate manipulative behavior and that you expect respectful communication moving forward. Bullies and aggressive individuals can be among the most challenging types of difficult people to handle. They often thrive on fear, intimidation, and control, pushing others into defensive or submissive positions. When dealing with bullies and aggressors, it's essential to stand your ground without resorting to the same tactics of aggression or hostility. Managing these situations effectively requires self-respect, composure, and confidence. One of the first steps in dealing with aggression is to remain calm. Aggressors often feed off reactions, whether it's fear, anger, or defensiveness. By maintaining a calm demeanor, you take away their power to control the interaction. In moments of confrontation, focus on your breathing and remind yourself that the bully's behavior reflects more about them than about you. This mental clarity helps you respond rather than react, giving you control over the situation. Another key aspect of standing your ground is to assert your boundaries clearly and confidently. Assertive body language, such as standing tall, maintaining eye contact, and speaking in a steady, firm tone, sends a message that you won't be intimidated. For instance, if someone is verbally aggressive, you can calmly state, "I don't appreciate being spoken to in this manner. Let's continue the conversation respectfully." This response sets a clear boundary without escalating the conflict. It's important to understand that bullies often target people they perceive as vulnerable. Cultivating self-respect and projecting confidence can deter aggressive behavior. When you respect yourself, you're less likely to internalize the bully's actions or words. A key technique is to remind yourself of your worth and reinforce positive self-talk, such as, "I deserve to be treated with respect, and I won't tolerate mistreatment." This mindset fortifies your emotional armor, allowing you to handle the situation with composure. In more severe cases, when the aggression becomes a pattern or escalates into harassment, it may be necessary to involve a third party, such as a supervisor, HR department, or, in extreme cases, law enforcement. Knowing when to escalate the situation is a form of self-respect, as it shows you won't tolerate behavior that crosses certain boundaries. Standing your ground without becoming aggressive is an exercise in emotional intelligence. It requires balancing firmness with respect, ensuring that you don't mirror the aggressor's behavior, but instead rise above it. Ultimately, dealing with bullies and aggressors is about reclaiming your power and refusing to be a victim of their tactics. Handling criticism and negative feedback can be tricky, especially when it comes from difficult people. Criticism, when constructive, can be incredibly valuable for personal growth, but destructive criticism, often laced with negativity or meant to tear you down, can harm your self-esteem if not properly managed. Learning how to differentiate between valid feedback and baseless negativity is key to navigating these situations with confidence. The first step in handling criticism is to separate the message from the tone. Often, even valid criticism can be delivered in a harsh or disrespectful manner, making it difficult to accept. Focus on the content of the feedback, not how it's delivered. Ask yourself, is there any truth to what's being said? If there is, then use it as an opportunity to grow. If the criticism is baseless or unjustified, recognize it as such and let it roll off your back. Constructive criticism is intended to help you improve, even if it's uncomfortable to hear. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, is meant to belittle or tear down. A key way to handle criticism is to consider the source. If it comes from someone who genuinely cares about your growth or success, take it seriously. If it comes from a difficult or toxic person who often undermines others, it's likely not worth your emotional energy. When faced with negative feedback, resist the urge to become defensive. It's natural to want to defend yourself, especially if the criticism feels unfair, but reacting defensively often fuels further conflict. Instead, respond calmly and ask for clarification if needed. For example, you could say, "I hear what you're saying, and I'd like to understand better. Can you give me an example?" This approach shows that you're open to feedback, but aren't accepting it blindly. It's also important to protect your self-worth. Not all criticism is a reflection of your abilities or character. Sometimes it reflects the other person's frustrations, insecurities, or personal issues. When dealing with toxic criticism, remind yourself that your value isn't determined by someone else's opinion. Positive affirmations like, "I am capable and worthy, regardless of what others think," can help you maintain a healthy sense of self-esteem. Responding to criticism with grace doesn't mean you have to agree with it. You can acknowledge the feedback without internalizing it. Phrases like, "I appreciate your perspective, but I disagree," or "Thank you for sharing your thoughts," allow you to acknowledge the criticism without accepting it as truth. This approach gives you the power to remain in control of your emotions and protect your sense of self-worth. Ultimately, handling criticism is about maintaining your emotional balance. By learning to differentiate between helpful feedback and destructive criticism, you empower yourself to grow from the former while dismissing the latter. Dealing with difficult people can often place you in negative situations where maintaining a positive mindset becomes challenging. Whether it's a toxic work environment, a draining relationship, or daily encounters with negativity, staying positive is essential for preserving your inner peace and emotional resilience. While you can't always control the negativity around you, you can control how you respond to it. One of the most effective ways to maintain a positive outlook in negative situations is to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you stay grounded in the present moment, reducing the power of external negativity to affect your internal state. When you find yourself surrounded by negative people or situations, take a few deep breaths and center yourself. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, and how can I choose to respond in a way that protects my peace? This practice of mindfulness helps you observe your emotions without being consumed by them. Positive self-talk is another powerful tool for maintaining resilience in the face of negativity. Often, difficult people try to drag you into their emotional turmoil, but positive self-talk can act as a shield against this. By reminding yourself of your strengths and reinforcing your self-worth, you create a buffer between yourself and external negativity. For example, if a coworker constantly criticizes your work, instead of absorbing their negativity, tell yourself, "I'm doing my best, and my value isn't determined by their opinion." In addition to self-talk, daily affirmations can help build a positive mental attitude. Start your day with affirmations like, "I choose to remain positive regardless of what comes my way," or "I am in control of my emotions, and I will not let negativity affect me." By affirming your resilience, you set the tone for the day and equip yourself to handle any difficult situations with grace. Another key to staying positive in negative situations is to surround yourself with uplifting influences. While you may not be able to avoid negativity entirely, you can balance it by seeking out positivity. This could mean spending time with supportive friends, reading inspirational books, or listening to motivational podcasts. The more you fill your life with positive energy, the less impact negative situations will have on your mood. Practical exercises like gratitude journaling can also help strengthen your emotional resilience. Each day, take a few moments to write down 3 things you're grateful for, even if they're small. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's right in your life, helping you maintain perspective when negative situations arise. It reminds you that no matter how difficult things seem, there are always reasons to be thankful. Lastly, maintaining a sense of humor can be an effective way to rise above negativity. When faced with difficult people or situations, sometimes the best response is to find the humor in it. Laughter releases tension, boosts your mood, and helps you see things from a lighter perspective. By not taking everything too seriously, you protect yourself from being weighed down by the negativity around you. Staying positive in negative situations isn't about ignoring the challenges, but about choosing how you respond to them. With the right mindset, tools, and practices, you can maintain your inner peace and emotional strength, no matter what difficulties you encounter. Recognizing when to walk away from a difficult situation can be one of the most important, yet hardest decisions to make. Often, we hold on to toxic relationships or environments longer than necessary, hoping things will improve or change. However, sometimes no amount of communication or conflict resolution strategies will be enough to fix the situation, and walking away becomes the healthiest option. The first step in recognizing when to walk away is identifying patterns. If you've consistently tried to address the problem, whether through assertive communication, setting boundaries, or seeking mediation, and the situation remains the same or even worsens, it may be time to consider disengaging. Consistent disrespect, lack of change, or outright disregard for your feelings are clear indicators that the person you're dealing with is unwilling to adjust their behavior. In such cases, it's essential to prioritize self-care and acknowledge your limits. You are not obligated to continuously endure mistreatment in hopes of a breakthrough. Walking away isn't a sign of failure. It's a recognition of your worth and a commitment to your emotional and mental well-being. Self-care involves understanding that your time, energy, and peace are valuable, and that staying in a toxic environment can have long-term negative effects on your health and happiness. Before walking away, take steps to ensure you've done all you can to resolve the issue. Have you clearly communicated your needs? Have you given the other person the opportunity to change or adjust their behavior? Have you tried to see things from their perspective? These questions help ensure that the decision to walk away is not made out of anger or frustration, but from a place of careful consideration and self-respect. Walking away can take many forms, depending on the situation. It could mean leaving a job, distancing yourself from a toxic friend, or setting firm limits with a family member. In some cases, it may involve a gradual disengagement, where you limit contact or interaction, giving yourself the space to recover emotionally. Whatever form it takes, the key is recognizing that disengaging from a difficult person is sometimes the best solution for your long-term well-being. Compassion is an often overlooked tool in resolving conflicts with difficult people. While it may seem counterintuitive to approach challenging individuals with empathy, compassion can diffuse tension and create an opportunity for understanding. When you view difficult people through the lens of compassion, you start to see their behavior as a reflection of their inner struggles rather than a personal attack on you. Many difficult people act out of fear, insecurity, or past trauma. By acknowledging this, you can soften your response and shift your perspective from one of confrontation to one of empathy. However, it's important to balance compassion with assertiveness and self-respect. Compassion doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment or allowing others to walk over you. Instead, it means recognizing their humanity while maintaining your boundaries. For example, if someone is constantly critical or aggressive, instead of reacting defensively, you might choose to respond with compassion. You could acknowledge their frustration and ask if there's something deeper bothering them. By doing so, you demonstrate empathy, which can sometimes soften the other person's demeanor. At the same time, you're not excusing their behavior, but inviting a more open dialogue. There are numerous stories where compassion has transformed difficult situations. In workplaces, for instance, managers who approach disgruntled employees with compassion and understanding often find that it leads to improved relationships and productivity. In personal relationships, taking the time to listen and empathize with someone's pain, even when they are being difficult, can lead to breakthroughs in communication. The key is to practice compassion without sacrificing your own needs. You can be kind and empathetic while still standing firm in your boundaries. Compassion doesn't mean letting others off the hook for bad behavior. It means offering understanding while holding them accountable for their actions. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for releasing the negative emotions that come from dealing with difficult people. Holding on to anger, resentment, or frustration only prolongs the emotional toll these interactions take on you. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing or condoning bad behavior. Rather, it's about freeing yourself from the emotional burden of holding a grudge. When you forgive someone, you're choosing to let go of the bitterness that keeps you tethered to the conflict. This act of release is for your benefit more than theirs. Harboring resentment weighs heavily on your mental and emotional health, and forgiveness is a way to regain your peace of mind. It's important to note that forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to continue a relationship with them. You can forgive and still decide that it's best to distance yourself or walk away entirely. Forgiveness can be challenging, especially when the hurt is deep. However, it's essential for your well-being. One way to approach forgiveness is through empathy. Try to understand the root cause of the difficult person's behavior. This doesn't justify their actions, but it helps you see the situation from a broader perspective, making it easier to release the emotional hold it has on you. There are practical steps you can take to work through forgiveness. Start by acknowledging your feelings. It's okay to feel hurt, angry, or upset. Once you've processed your emotions, make a conscious decision to forgive. You may not feel ready immediately, but committing to the process can help shift your mindset. Journaling, meditation, or talking to a trusted friend can also help you work through these emotions. Moving forward after forgiveness doesn't mean you forget what happened or put yourself in a position to be hurt again. It means you've made peace with the past and are ready to release the negative emotions associated with it. Forgiveness allows you to move forward with a sense of closure, empowering you to focus on your own growth and well-being, rather than staying stuck in past conflicts. Ultimately, forgiveness is about reclaiming your power. By letting go of the emotional baggage that comes with difficult relationships, you free yourself to live more fully and peacefully without being weighed down by past hurts. Dealing with difficult people in the workplace can be one of the most challenging aspects of maintaining a career. Unlike personal relationships, where you may have more flexibility to walk away, the workplace often requires continued interaction with difficult individuals. Whether it's a controlling boss, a competitive coworker, or a demanding client, navigating these dynamics takes a combination of professionalism, strategy, and emotional intelligence. Office politics and workplace drama can make an already stressful job even more difficult. Gossip, power struggles, or subtle forms of sabotage can create a toxic environment that drains your energy and undermines productivity. One of the most effective strategies for managing these situations is to stay focused on your work and avoid getting caught up in the drama. By maintaining a professional demeanor and refusing to engage in office gossip or political maneuvering, you send a message that you are there to do your job and not to get involved in unnecessary conflicts. When dealing with difficult bosses, it's important to recognize that you cannot change their behavior, but you can change how you respond to it. If a boss is overly critical or demanding, try to understand their expectations clearly. Sometimes what appears as difficult behavior is rooted in miscommunication or unmet expectations. By seeking clarification and delivering work that meets or exceeds expectations, you can reduce tension. However, if the boss is abusive or creates a hostile work environment, it may be necessary to escalate the issue through proper channels, such as human resources, or to consider finding a new job where you're treated with respect. Handling difficult co-workers requires a mix of assertiveness and diplomacy. If a co-worker constantly undermines you, try to address the issue privately and professionally. Use I statements to express how their behavior affects your work and ask for a solution. For example, "I've noticed that when you take credit for my work in meetings, it makes it harder for me to contribute effectively. Can we agree to collaborate more openly in the future?" This approach reduces the likelihood of confrontation while setting clear expectations for change. Clients can also be a source of difficulty, especially if they are demanding or unrealistic in their expectations. In these situations, communication is key. Set clear boundaries from the start about what is possible and realistic. If a client becomes unreasonable, calmly reiterate those boundaries while offering alternative solutions. For instance, if a client insists on an impossible deadline, you could say, "I understand this is a priority for you. While we can't meet that exact timeline, we can expedite the process to have it done by X date." This demonstrates professionalism while maintaining control of the situation. The key to dealing with workplace difficulties is maintaining professionalism at all times, standing up for yourself when necessary, and knowing when to involve higher management or human resources. Balancing assertiveness with respect ensures you protect your position without escalating conflict. Family dynamics often bring a unique intensity to conflicts, as these relationships are deeply personal and emotionally charged. Unlike workplace conflicts, where professional boundaries can help, family disputes often involve long-standing issues that have built up over years, making them more difficult to resolve. Moreover, the emotional ties we have with family members can make it harder to maintain objectivity and detachment. One of the biggest challenges with difficult family members is that their behavior may be rooted in unresolved childhood dynamics, long-standing resentments, or unspoken expectations. Understanding this can help you approach conflicts with empathy while still setting clear boundaries to protect your own emotional well-being. Addressing long-standing issues with family members requires patience and honesty. It's important to have open, respectful conversations about how their behavior affects you, but to do so in a way that doesn't attack or blame. For instance, instead of saying, "You always undermine me," you might say, "I feel hurt when you dismiss my opinions at family gatherings." This approach opens the door for dialogue without putting the other person on the defensive. In some cases, setting boundaries is the only way to maintain your peace while preserving the relationship. Boundaries are not about cutting people off, but about defining what behaviors are acceptable and what you will not tolerate. For example, if a family member is constantly critical, you might decide to limit the time you spend with them or agree to disengage from certain topics of conversation that lead to conflict. It's important to remember that setting boundaries with family members doesn't mean you love them any less. It simply means you are protecting your own emotional health. Healthy boundaries can actually improve relationships by reducing conflict and promoting mutual respect. In cases where the family member refuses to respect your boundaries, it may be necessary to limit contact or even distance yourself for a period of time. Addressing difficult family dynamics requires a combination of empathy, boundary setting, and a commitment to your own well-being. While it's not always possible to resolve deep-seated family conflicts, taking these steps can help you manage the relationship in a way that protects your emotional health while preserving family ties. The power of non-reaction is a potent tool in dealing with difficult people. Often, difficult individuals thrive on getting a reaction from others. Whether it's through provocation, passive-aggressive behavior, or direct confrontation, they push buttons to elicit an emotional response. By choosing not to react, you rob them of their power and maintain control over your own emotions and actions. Non-reaction doesn't mean passivity or allowing others to walk all over you. Rather, it is a conscious decision to not be drawn into their negativity or toxic behavior. When you respond with calmness and detachment, you shift the dynamic of the interaction. Instead of escalating the conflict, you diffuse it by refusing to give the difficult person the satisfaction of your emotional response. Psychologically, non-reaction has significant benefits. When you practice non-reaction, you engage the logical part of your brain rather than the emotional reactive part. This allows you to think clearly and make better decisions, even in the face of provocation. Over time, practicing non-reaction can improve your emotional resilience, allowing you to handle difficult people and situations with greater ease. Non-reaction also sends a message to the difficult person that their behavior has no impact on you. This can be incredibly disarming for people who are used to pushing others' buttons. By not engaging, you maintain your power and demonstrate that you are not affected by their behavior, which can often lead them to change their approach or back off entirely. In real-world examples, non-reaction has been shown to lead to better outcomes in both personal and professional conflicts. For instance, in the workplace, a colleague who constantly tries to provoke you may eventually stop when they realize their tactics are not working. In personal relationships, non-reaction can prevent small disagreements from escalating into full-blown arguments, allowing you to maintain peace and stability. Non-reaction requires practice and self-discipline, but it is one of the most effective strategies for dealing with difficult people. By choosing calm over conflict, you not only protect your own peace, but also create an environment where resolution is more likely to occur. Building inner strength is crucial for navigating the inevitable challenges that arise from dealing with difficult people. Inner strength isn't just about suppressing your emotions or pretending not to be affected by negative behavior. It's about cultivating genuine resilience so you can remain steady and composed in the face of adversity. This strength comes from mental, emotional, and spiritual practices that help you develop a strong core of inner peace and self-confidence. One of the first steps in building inner strength is developing a mindset of self-reliance and emotional independence. Difficult people often have a way of making you feel as though your happiness depends on their actions. But the truth is, no one can control your inner state unless you let them. Building this kind of resilience requires regular self-reflection, where you assess how much of your emotional well-being is tied to external validation or approval. When you start focusing on internal approval and cultivating self-worth from within, the influence of difficult people starts to diminish. Mental resilience also plays a key role in handling conflicts. Techniques such as mindfulness and meditation can help you become more aware of your thoughts and emotions in difficult situations. Instead of being reactive, you learn to pause, assess, and respond in a way that reflects your values rather than someone else's negativity. Through meditation, you develop a heightened sense of awareness, helping you to observe your thoughts without getting carried away by them. This detachment allows you to make clear-headed decisions instead of reacting out of frustration or anger. Another powerful technique for cultivating inner peace is developing a gratitude practice. When you consciously focus on what's good in your life, you train your brain to shift away from the negativity difficult people may bring into your life. Gratitude is a grounding force that helps you remain centered and content even when external circumstances are challenging. Daily gratitude exercises, whether through journaling or simply reflecting on the positive aspects of your life, can strengthen your ability to remain unfazed by negativity. Building emotional resilience also involves learning to set healthy emotional boundaries. This isn't about shutting yourself off emotionally, but about knowing when to disengage and protect your inner peace. Emotional boundaries help you maintain your energy and keep you from being drained by constant conflict or toxic behavior. By practicing self-care and knowing when to walk away from emotionally charged situations, you protect your mental and emotional health while keeping your strength intact. Developing mental toughness takes time and consistent practice, but it is the foundation for handling difficult people with grace. By building your inner strength, you ensure that you are not easily shaken by other people's negativity, and you empower yourself to navigate conflicts with confidence and calmness. Living a life free from the control of difficult people is not only possible, it's essential for your overall happiness and fulfillment. While you can't eliminate difficult people from your life entirely, you can take back control of how you respond to them, ensuring they no longer have the power to dictate your mood, actions, or emotions. Reclaiming control of your life begins with the realization that you are in charge of your emotional well-being. Difficult people may create external challenges, but how you internalize those challenges is entirely up to you. When you make the decision to no longer allow their behavior to affect your internal state, you liberate yourself from the emotional roller coaster that comes with engaging in constant conflict. One of the long-term strategies for living a life of peace, regardless of external conflict, is adopting a mindset of radical acceptance. This means accepting that there will always be difficult people and challenging situations, but choosing not to let them derail your happiness. Acceptance doesn't mean condoning bad behavior. It means recognizing that some things are out of your control and focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, actions, and responses. Another powerful strategy for long-term peace is surrounding yourself with positive, supportive people. While difficult people will always exist, you can balance their negativity by fostering relationships with individuals who uplift and encourage you. These positive relationships act as a buffer, providing you with the emotional support you need when dealing with difficult personalities. In addition, practicing self-care and prioritizing activities that bring you joy can further strengthen your resilience and help you stay grounded. Empowering yourself to rise above difficult people involves shifting your focus from conflict to personal growth. Instead of viewing difficult people as obstacles, see them as opportunities for growth and self-mastery. Each challenging interaction gives you the chance to practice patience, compassion, and emotional strength. Over time, these qualities become a natural part of who you are, making it easier to handle future conflicts with ease and grace. Living a life free from the control of difficult people is about reclaiming your peace, your happiness, and your sense of purpose. It's about refusing to let negativity define your experiences and instead choosing to live a joyful, fulfilling life, regardless of who or what tries to disrupt it. When you fully embrace the power you have over your own emotions and well-being, you become unstoppable in your pursuit of a life filled with peace, success, and happiness.